My future mother-in-law said I'd never be a proper wife, so I showed her exactly how proper I could be. So the very first time I met Nathan's mom, she served everyone else tea, nice tea, but handed me instant coffee. Then she turns to her sister and says something in Tagalog while giving me this sweet smile, and Nathan quickly tells me she's complimenting my dress. But here's the thing, I caught one word I actually recognized: tradition. My stomach dropped because her tone didn't match Nathan's translation at all. That night I downloaded a language app. The wedding was 18 months away. I figured I had time to learn enough to survive family dinners. 6 months later, I understood basic phrases but sounded terrible trying to speak. At our engagement party, his mother was talking to her sisters and kept switching between English and Tagalog. She'd say something nice in English like, "She's very sweet," then immediately say something in Tagalog that made her sisters laugh. I understood walang kultura, no culture. Then, hindi marunong magluto, can't cook. Then, pangit ang accent, ugly accent. I just stood there holding my champagne, pretending I didn't understand. Nathan asked me later why I was so quiet. I told him I was just overwhelmed. He kissed my forehead and said his mom really liked me. I wanted to scream, but I needed her to think I was clueless. By month 8, I understood most conversations but sounded awful when I tried to speak. My tutor kept making me repeat the same phrases over and over. She told me my comprehension was great, but my pronunciation was rough. Nathan thought I went to book club every Wednesday. I was actually at the Filipino Cultural Center learning wedding ceremonies from this grandmother named Lola Mercy. She was sweet but didn't sugarcoat anything. She told me I understood like an adult but talked like a baby. Month 10 almost ruined everything. Nathan found my workbook with hundreds of pages of notes. The worst part was that I'd been writing down every insult his mother said, with dates and translations. He went pale reading through them. Gold digger, temporary, not worthy. I grabbed it back and told him I was learning Tagalog to surprise his mom at the wedding, that these were just practice translations from TV shows. He wanted to believe me. He suggested maybe I could do one tradition in Tagalog at the wedding. I agreed, knowing I was planning way more than that. Month 11, his mother started switching to Tagalog mid-conversation whenever I walked in the room. She'd apologize and say it was family stuff, but she was getting meaner. She told her sister I probably had diseases. Her sister actually said that was too far, but his mother just laughed and said it wasn't like I could understand anyway. By month 13, I understood everything but never let on. Christmas was the worst. His relatives came from the Philippines and his mother went all out. She called me ugly in person, asked Nathan why he didn't just date a Filipino girl. Then she actually brought some girl named Maria to dinner and introduced her as a family friend. Maria was gorgeous and spent the whole night cooking with his mother and speaking perfect Tagalog. Nathan looked exhausted and told his mom to stop, but she told him in Tagalog that he'd thank her when I left him. Month 15 nearly broke me. During wedding planning, his mother told all the vendors in Tagalog to ignore what I wanted. I watched her change my flowers, my food, everything. The vendor looked at me with pity and asked if I was okay with the changes. I just nodded. That night, I practiced my wedding speech until my throat was raw. I'd memorized 10 minutes about traditions that Lola Mercy taught me, stuff his mother's own mother never passed down. 3 weeks before the wedding, Lola Mercy mentioned she grew up with his mother's mom in Batangas. She said her friend would be ashamed of how her daughter was acting. That's when I knew I had this. At the rehearsal dinner, his mother announced she'd handle all the Filipino traditions since Americans couldn't understand them. 150 people heard her say it. The ceremony started and his mother stood up with her friend Rosa to translate for my family. I touched her arm gently and said, "Salamat po, mama. Please let me try." She smirked, waiting for me to embarrass myself. People were already pulling out their phones, probably expecting a disaster. I started my memorized speech perfectly. I didn't just explain the traditions. I talked about where they really came from, before Spanish colonization, the regional differences, stuff that had been forgotten. I explained how the court ceremony came from ancient binding rituals, not from Spain. I talked about Babaylan priestesses and Sanskrit influences, everything Lola Mercy and I had researched together. His mother's face went completely white. The church went crazy. His elderly grandmother stood up crying, saying finally someone knew their real history. His aunt yelled that I knew more than his mother. After our vows, I took his mother's hand and pressed it to my forehead for her blessing. She had to give it. Everyone was watching and recording. Her hand was shaking. At the reception, she didn't say a word while I led the traditional dances. Nathan told her I'd been studying for 18 months, since the day she served me instant coffee. Later, she cornered me and asked how I knew all that. I told her Lola Mercy was her mother's friend. She fell apart. At our daughter's first birthday, she made a post saying she was wrong about me. Then she said in Tagalog that I was her true daughter.